I
The
did nothing!
horrifying things
Let me
done to
go!
accused witches before they were burned alive. The colony of
She is
AliveThe
guilty!
hung
Burn
quietly
her!
beneath the twin suns, a human settlement on the edge of known space. The tall spires of their research stations reflected the orange light, casting long shadows across the smooth, metallic streets. It was a place built for science, for knowledge. But even in a colony devoted to reason, fear could take root like an invasive plant. Ilara stepped off the transport pod, her boots clicking against the polished surface of the main plaza. Her hazel eyes scanned the crowd that had begun to gather near the central chamber. Today was the trial of the accused, a day that sent chills through every colonist who believed in fairness. Some whispered quietly in corners, others avoided the square entirely. At the center of it all, a group of 7 individuals stood before the elders, their hands clasped tightly, eyes lowered. They were accused of unnatural abilities, things the elders called forbidden phenomena. One of them, a young man named Taran, trembled slightly, his bright blue uniform wrinkled from nervous energy. Another, Myra, folded her hands calmly, though her eyes flickered with fear. Ilara felt a pang in her chest. She knew these people. They were scientists, engineers, and biologists, dedicated humans who had always contributed to the colony. And yet now, for reasons she could not understand, they were being accused of crimes that seemed impossible. Her own mentor, Professor Avon, had whispered to her earlier, "Ilara, remember, truth is sometimes hidden behind fear. Today, you will see fear take the place of reason." The elders were a solemn group, robed in silver and black, their faces carved into expressions of authority. High Elder Kaelan, the oldest and strictest, stepped forward. His voice, amplified by the plaza's acoustics, rang clear. "People of Orlia 7, he began, "today we face a threat to our community. These individuals have shown capabilities that defy natural law. We must examine whether these abilities are harmful. Their actions may endanger all of us." A murmur spread through the crowd. Some nodded, others looked uneasy. Ilara's stomach tightened. She had read the initial reports of the phenomena, and she knew what they were: natural anomalies, unexplained by the colony's limited research, but not dangerous. The trials, however, were not designed to uncover truth. They were meant to test the accused under impossible conditions, as a way for the elders to assert authority. The first test was psychological. The accused were led to the Hall of Mirrors, a chamber filled with reflective surfaces and shifting lights. Their task was to navigate the maze without touching any surface or losing their balance. If they failed, the elders claimed, it would be proof of malicious intent. Taran froze at the entrance, glancing back at Ilara. She gave him a small, reassuring nod. Myra stepped forward confidently, sensing the pattern in the lights. Ilara could not help but admire the human's natural ability to adapt. Even in a stressful situation, they were thinking, observing, learning. They did not panic, they strategized. Myra led the way, carefully timing her steps, while Taran followed, adjusting his movements to hers. Slowly, one by one, the group made it through the maze without error. Some members of the crowd gasped in astonishment, unable to imagine anyone succeeding. The elders' faces tightened. "You are fortunate this time," High Elder Kaelan said, his tone sharp. "But the next test will prove your true intentions." This time, the test was intellectual. The accused were presented with a complex system of alien machinery, its purpose unknown. They were instructed to disarm it without causing any disturbance, essentially, to understand it entirely within 1 hour. Ilara stepped closer, her heart pounding. This was her element. She had studied alien machinery her entire career, and she could see the subtle cues in the mechanisms that the elders had overlooked. Quietly, she whispered suggestions to the accused. Taran's eyes lit up. "The central cog must align with the energy emitter," he said, following Ilara's hint. Slowly, the group adjusted the machinery, their movements precise and coordinated. In moments, the system stabilized. Lights glowed steadily, indicating success. The crowd murmured in astonishment. Humans had turned the elders' test into a demonstration of intelligence, creativity, and teamwork. Yet, even as the group celebrated quietly, the elders remained unyielding. They had not anticipated humans thinking beyond imposed limits, and it frightened them. Fear had replaced reason, as Professor Avon had warned. Alara knew the true danger lay not in the tests themselves, but in the perception of the crowd. If humans could demonstrate ingenuity, perhaps they could sway others, but the elders would resist at every turn. That night, in her small quarters overlooking the twin suns, Alara pored over the data she had collected. The forbidden abilities were nothing more than anomalies caused by environmental fluctuations in the colony's new energy field. None were dangerous. The elders' fears were unfounded. But proving it would require more than data. It would require a demonstration that everyone could see and understand, a display of human ingenuity that could not be dismissed. Alara looked out at the glowing horizon. Somewhere in the crowd, doubt had begun to stir. Some colonists had witnessed humans succeeding where others expected failure. That doubt could grow. It was the beginning of a subtle revolution, not with weapons, but with intelligence, curiosity, and courage. Humans had always been underestimated, and yet, time and again, they had shown that their greatest strength was their ability to adapt, to think, and to rise in the face of fear. In the quiet hum of the colony's systems, Alara made a promise to herself. She would ensure that reason triumphed over fear. She would protect the accused and show that humans, even when labeled as dangerous, could be the most trustworthy guardians of knowledge. The night passed slowly. The twin suns sank below the horizon, casting AliveThe in shades of violet and silver. In the quiet, humans planned, thought, and prepared, not for revenge but for justice. And the colony, though unaware, began to witness the first sparks of something new, a demonstration of humanity at its finest. The morning air on AliveThe was crisp and still, the twin suns rising slowly over the horizon. The colony was alive with quiet tension. The events of the previous day had left a mark on the colonists. Rumors whispered through the streets like wind through tall metal spires. The accused had passed the impossible Hall of Mirrors test and stabilized the alien machinery. Some colonists nodded with admiration, others clenched their jaws with fear. Alara walked briskly toward the central trial dome, a massive, domed structure at the heart of the colony. Inside, the elders had prepared a series of challenges that were supposed to expose the truth about the accused. But Alara knew that what awaited them was more about perception than fact. The accused gathered in the chamber, their expressions a mixture of resolve and uncertainty. Taran, still uneasy from yesterday, shifted his weight nervously. Myra stood beside him, calm as ever, her fingers tapping lightly against the edge of the table. She seemed to understand something the others did not. Humanity always had a way of turning the impossible into the possible. High Elder Kaelin appeared, flanked by two senior elders, his robes glinting under the dome's lights. "Today," he said, "you will face the next set of trials. These are designed to reveal your true nature. Success indicates loyalty to the colony. Failure indicates danger." Alara's pulse quickened. She glanced at the accused. "Stay focused," she whispered. "Trust your instincts and remember what you know. The tests are unfair, but we can succeed if we work together." The first trial was called the Labyrinth of Logic, a holographic maze projected across the floor, walls rising and falling in unpredictable patterns. At intervals, floating symbols appeared, puzzles that required precise timing, pattern recognition, and rapid calculation. Each mistake reset the maze, forcing participants to start over. Taran's fingers twitched nervously. "I can't do this," he muttered. "You can," Alara said firmly. "Look for patterns, watch the sequence. You know the rules of logic better than anyone here. Myra stepped forward, studying the maze. It's not random, she said. The symbols follow a rhythm. If we map it, we can anticipate the next move. Slowly, they began to advance. Taran faltered, making a wrong move, but Myra guided him silently. They synchronized their steps, anticipating the symbols before they appeared. The crowd in the viewing gallery gasped in astonishment as the accused navigated the maze flawlessly, finishing in record time. The elders' expressions remained stoic, but Alara caught a flicker of surprise in one younger elder's eyes. Humans, they realized, were thinking in ways the elders had not considered. Next came the test of memory and perception. In a vast chamber filled with floating orbs of light, the accused were asked to identify patterns among the orbs, which shifted colors, numbers, and sequences continuously. Each mistake would trigger alarms and a time penalty. The challenge was designed to overwhelm and confuse, but humans have a unique strength, the ability to adapt under pressure. Myra's mind worked quickly, noting connections between colors and symbols. Taran focused, repeating the sequences silently in his mind, visualizing them as constellations. One by one, the group pointed to the correct orbs, working in perfect harmony. Alara could hardly suppress a smile. "Humans aren't just surviving," she whispered. "We're excelling." During a short break, the accused gathered in a corner of the chamber. "Do you think we can really change their minds?" Taran asked. His voice was quiet, almost a whisper. "We don't need to convince them with words," Myra replied. "We show them." "Humans show strength in intelligence, in teamwork, in courage. That is enough." Alara nodded. "Exactly. Every challenge is an opportunity to demonstrate what humans do best: adapt, learn, and thrive." The third trial was called the Puzzle of Ethics, a complex simulation in which participants had to make decisions that balanced survival, safety, and logic. The elders claimed it would reveal whether the accused could be trusted with the colony's future. In reality, the simulation was designed with impossible moral dilemmas. Alara watched as the accused approached the simulation. At first, the holographic scenarios seemed unfair, options that punished the innocent, forces that worked against them. But humans have another unique ability: creativity in problem-solving. "Look for solutions they didn't expect," Alara advised. "Think outside the box." Slowly, one by one, the accused began making decisions that not only solved the scenarios but minimized harm and maximized efficiency. Instead of choosing obvious paths, they coordinated, negotiated with the AI projections, and found innovative strategies. Even the skeptical elders could not hide their astonishment. These humans were not just surviving the trials, they were reshaping them. As the day wore on, the trials grew more complex. Each test challenged not only the intellect but the cohesion and courage of the group. The colony watched silently, some in awe, others in fear. Humans had turned the elders' attempts to demonstrate control into a demonstration of adaptability, ingenuity, and resilience. By the evening, the accused had completed every trial successfully. The elders were forced to acknowledge their abilities, though their pride prevented them from openly conceding. Alara knew that the real challenge had only begun. It was one thing to succeed in controlled trials. It was another to convince the broader colony that humans could be trusted, especially when fear ran deep. As the crowd dispersed, murmurs filled the streets. Some colonists expressed admiration for the accused, others whispered of rebellion and caution. Alara understood that humans' greatest weapon was their ability to inspire hope, hope through intelligence, courage, and collaboration. That night, Alara and the accused gathered in a quiet laboratory, away from prying eyes. "We have proven ourselves in these trials," Myra said. "But the elders will not stop. They fear what they do not understand." Alara placed a hand on the console, watching the glow of the city outside. "Then we show them again," she said, "not with words but with actions. Humanity thrives in challenge, and we will prove that even fear cannot stop us when we work together. The twin moons rose over Orlia 7, casting a silver light across the city. In the quiet, the accused prepared for what would come next, a public demonstration of human ingenuity, where the entire colony would witness what humans could truly achieve. It was the dawn of a new chapter. Fear and suspicion would not define humanity here. Instead, intelligence, courage, and resilience would. And somewhere in the shadows, the elders realized that the humans they had sought to judge were already teaching them a lesson they would not forget. The sun rose slowly over Orlia 7, spilling golden light across the colony's spires and domes. The events of the past trials had left a mark not only on the accused, but on the entire colony. Whispers of awe, suspicion, and curiosity swirled through the streets. Humans had passed the elders' impossible tests with intelligence, adaptability, and teamwork, but the elders still held sway over the colony's law and judgment. Alara walked briskly through the plaza, carrying a small, portable console. She paused at a quiet corner near the observation tower, watching the twin suns, rays dance on the reflective metal surfaces of the spires. Today, the plan was simple but ambitious. She needed to reveal the truth behind the alleged forbidden abilities. The accused, Taran, Myra, and the others, gathered in the lab. Each of them had grown from fear into confidence, yet there remained tension in the air. They knew the elders would resist logic, but they also understood the stakes. The reputation and safety of humans depended on this revelation. "Are we ready?" Myra asked quietly. Her calm demeanor inspired confidence in the others. Alara nodded. "We have data, observations, and demonstrations. What we need now is clarity. Everyone will see the truth for themselves." The discovery. Weeks of investigation had revealed the cause of the phenomena the elders had labeled forbidden. The anomalies were not powers at all. They were natural effects of the colony's new energy field, a product of the experimental energy grid that powered Orlia 7. The energy field interacted with biological systems and certain hybrid genetics in unusual ways. Lights appeared to flicker without cause, machines responded unpredictably, and some individuals seemed unusually perceptive in these zones. Alara laid out the evidence. Graphs, recordings, and holographic simulations showed patterns and explanations. Humans had no mystical powers. They were simply observant and intelligent enough to notice patterns that the elders missed. "This isn't magic," Alara said. "It's science. And if we understand it, we can prevent accidents, improve efficiency, and protect the colony. Nothing here threatens anyone." The accused nodded. This was the turning point. Knowledge as power, not fear. The public demonstration. Alara and the accused knew the elders would not accept a private explanation. The colony needed to see the phenomena explained logically. A public demonstration was arranged in the central plaza, under the twin suns. A crowd gathered, murmuring anxiously. Children clutched parents' hands. Scientists, engineers, and ordinary citizens leaned forward, curiosity overcoming fear. High Elder Kalen appeared, flanked by elders who looked wary. "This demonstration is authorized," he said reluctantly, though his tone suggested skepticism. Alara stepped forward, projecting holographic simulations that represented the energy field and its effects. "Citizens of Orlia 7, she began, "you have witnessed strange events. Lights that flicker, machines that act unexpectedly, and unusual perceptions by some members of our community. These events are not supernatural. They are the natural result of our energy grid interacting with our environment." She activated the first simulation. The holographic lights flickered exactly as they had in the colony. Then, with careful adjustments, she manipulated the energy field in real time, demonstrating exactly how environmental factors influence the phenomena. Taran and Myra assisted, replicating the anomalies safely. The crowd gasped as the illusions vanished under explanation, replaced with clear, understandable sequences. A murmur ran through the onlookers. Humans had turned fear into understanding, intelligence into reassurance. Even some elders began to show surprise. The realization was inescapable. The accused were not dangerous, nor were they supernatural. They were humans using intelligence, observation, and collaboration to navigate complexity that the elders had misunderstood. Resistance and conflict, not all were convinced. Some elders whispered among themselves, unwilling to admit error. Certain colonists clung to fear, skeptical of explanations they did not fully understand. Alara knew that logic alone might not sway everyone immediately. She smiled subtly, turning to the accused. We don't need everyone to believe instantly. We just need to show what humans can do, solve problems, reveal truth, and work together. That is enough to plant understanding. The accused performed additional demonstrations, solving practical problems caused by the energy field. They repaired malfunctioning systems, stabilized environmental controls, and demonstrated efficiency improvements. Each success impressed the crowd, earning respect and admiration. Even Kaelan, initially stern and rigid, could not hide a flicker of approval. His mind, trained to fear the unknown, began to acknowledge the truth. Humans excel not through magic, but through intelligence and collaboration. Human ingenuity in action. One particularly complex demonstration involved a malfunctioning communications relay that had puzzled technicians for weeks. Alara guided the group through analysis, using observation, logical reasoning, and teamwork. Taran noticed a subtle phase shift in the energy signals. Myra calculated the timing of the fluctuations. Together, they adjusted the relay safely. The system stabilized perfectly, and the crowd erupted in applause. This was humanity at its finest, adapting, analyzing, and solving problems under pressure. The demonstration did not rely on luck or brute force. It relied on thought, cooperation, and careful observation. Alara's heart swelled. She had always believed in human potential, but seeing it displayed for everyone, elders, colonists, and skeptics alike, was exhilarating. A shift in perspective as the demonstrations continued, fear began to fade among the crowd. Curiosity replaced suspicion. Admiration replaced doubt. Humans were no longer seen as potentially dangerous outsiders. They were capable, reliable, and clever. Even the elders began to adjust their thinking. High Elder Kaelan addressed the crowd. It appears we have underestimated our fellow colonists. Their abilities are not mystical. They are human, intelligent, capable, and adaptable. Perhaps our fear blinded us to what we should have recognized long ago. The statement was cautious but historic. For the first time in Orlia 7 history, humans had earned public acknowledgement of their ingenuity and value, not through conflict, but through demonstration of intellect, courage, and teamwork. Reflection and planning that evening, the group gathered in the lab. The colony buzzed with excitement and conversation outside. Alara looked at her team, Taran, Myra, and the others. Each face reflected relief, pride, and a newfound determination. "We've done it," Myra said quietly. "The colony sees us differently now." Alara shook her head. "This is only the beginning. Knowledge is a tool, but understanding must be nurtured. We've changed minds today, but we must continue to lead with intelligence, courage, and collaboration." Taran smiled, finally at ease. "I never thought I could be proud of being human in this way." Alara placed a hand on his shoulder. "Humanity has always had this potential. We thrive not by fear, not by superstition, but by thinking, observing, and adapting. That is our true power." Setting the stage for the final chapter as the twin moons rose over Orlia 7, the colony was no longer the same. Humans had faced accusation, suspicion, and fear. They had endured impossible trials, revealed truth through science, and earned recognition not through force, but through intellect. Alara gazed at the stars beyond the dome, thinking of the future. Humanity had proven itself capable here, on this distant colony. The journey was not yet over. There were still challenges ahead, but the foundation was set. Humans had shown that even when others feared them, their intelligence, courage, and collaboration could shine brightly. They had earned trust, respect, and the opportunity to shape their world. And somewhere in the hearts of every colonist, a simple truth took hold. Fear can be overcome by knowledge, and humanity thrives when it embraces its greatest strengths. The story of AliveThe had reached a turning point. Humans were no longer just settlers. They were leaders, innovators, and a force to be admired across the stars. The morning sun of AliveThe spilled over the metallic spires, casting long golden beams across the colony. The events of the past weeks had shifted the mood. Where fear and suspicion had once dominated, now curiosity and admiration were beginning to take root. Alara walked through the central plaza, the hum of the colony's energy grid filling the air. Everywhere she looked, colonists were discussing the recent demonstrations, analyzing the energy field anomalies, and reflecting on what they had witnessed. Humanity, in the form of intelligence, courage, and adaptability, had turned suspicion into understanding. The accused, including Myra and Taran, gathered in the central lab. They had been busy refining their research, preparing systems for stability, and ensuring that the colony's energy grid would function safely and efficiently. They were not just proving themselves, they were actively improving life for everyone. Recognition of humanity, High Elder Kalen had called a meeting of all colony leaders in the Grand Hall, a massive structure designed to house formal gatherings and debates. Alara, the accused, and the research team entered, aware that the eyes of every leader were upon them. Kalen spoke first. "Citizens of AliveThe, he began, we have witnessed remarkable events over the past weeks. We have seen humans navigate impossible trials, reveal truths that were misunderstood, and demonstrate intelligence and courage beyond expectation. Today, we acknowledge that we have underestimated our fellow colonists." A hush fell over the hall. For years, fear had ruled judgment, and now, for the first time, the elders publicly admitted that humans' abilities were not dangerous, but extraordinary in their own right. Alara stepped forward, projecting holographic simulations of the energy field and the anomalies. "These events were never about danger," she said. "They were opportunities to observe, learn, and adapt. Humans thrive when faced with challenge, and when collaboration and intelligence guide action, solutions emerge that benefit everyone." Kalen nodded slowly. "You have shown us the truth. The trials were intended to test, but instead they have demonstrated the strength of humanity. For this, we recognize the accused not as threats, but as valuable members of this colony, transforming fear into trust." The acknowledgement of the elders sparked celebrations and discussions throughout AliveThe. Colonists who had once whispered fears of forbidden abilities now openly admired the humans who had solved problems that had puzzled even the most experienced technicians. Alara, Myra, and Taran walked through the streets, answering questions, explaining phenomena, and showing practical demonstrations. Every demonstration, whether stabilizing a malfunctioning system or analyzing a new energy fluctuation, highlighted the power of human intelligence and teamwork. Crowds gathered in open plazas to witness these demonstrations. Children learned how humans could observe patterns and solve problems. Adults were inspired to question their own assumptions, realizing that fear often came from misunderstanding, not reality. Humans, in their calm courage and intellect, had shifted the mindset of the entire colony. Expanding knowledge, Alara convened her team in the lab. "The elders have accepted our results, but the work is not done," she said. "The colony can only thrive if we continue to explore, learn, and share knowledge." Taran and Myra nodded. We can use what we've learned to improve energy management, environmental stability, and even communications, Myra suggested. Over the next weeks, the team implemented new protocols and systems based on their discoveries. Machines functioned more efficiently, energy fluctuations were minimized, and the overall safety and comfort of the colony improved significantly. The improvements were subtle at first, but soon became apparent to every colonist. Food production stabilized, transport systems ran smoothly, and the energy grid hummed steadily without anomalies. Humans had not only demonstrated their abilities, they had enhanced the colony's quality of life. Elders, new prospective High Elder Kalen and the Senior Council observed the changes closely. The elders realized that their fear had been based on incomplete understanding, and the humans had not only corrected misconceptions, but improved the entire colony's functionality. Perhaps we have learned the greatest lesson ourselves, Kalen said quietly to his advisors. Humans thrive on challenge, collaboration, and thought. To fear them is to ignore the greatest resource we have. The elders began to actively support human-led initiatives. Research programs expanded. Safety protocols incorporated human methods of observation and adaptation, and educational initiatives were created to train younger colonists in logic, pattern recognition, and problem-solving. It was a transformation, not just of perception, but of the entire colony's culture. Human ingenuity as leadership, Alara realized that humans' journey on Orlia 7 had become symbolic. Humans were no longer just settlers. They were leaders and innovators, demonstrating the value of intelligence, collaboration, and ethical problem-solving. The accused, once feared, now became mentors, guiding other colonists in understanding the energy field, predicting anomalies, and implementing solutions. Even skeptics began to adopt the methods humans used, seeing their effectiveness firsthand. Taran smiled as he guided a group of students through a complex simulation. "I never imagined humans could inspire this much trust," he said. Myra replied, "It's not about inspiration. It's about showing what we do best: observe, think, and work together." That is the essence of humanity. A brighter future weeks passed, and the colony flourished. Systems ran smoothly, conflicts over misunderstandings decreased, and humans became central to Orlia 7 growth. The once feared anomalies were now tools for learning and innovation. Alara stood on a balcony overlooking the city at sunset. The twin moons rose in the sky, reflecting light across the domes and streets. She felt a deep sense of pride, not for herself, but for what humanity had achieved. They had faced suspicion, impossible trials, and fear. They had endured judgment and misunderstanding. Yet, through intelligence, collaboration, and courage, humans had transformed fear into respect, doubt into admiration, and uncertainty into progress. The colony had been changed forever, not through force or violence, but through the demonstration of human ingenuity and ethical action. Legacy of humanity. As the moons cast silver light across Orlia 7, Alara considered the lessons learned. Humans were resilient not because they were the strongest, but because they could think, adapt, and solve problems creatively. They could face fear and uncertainty with calm reasoning, earning trust and respect along the way. The story of Orlia 7 would be told for generations. Humans were not just settlers. They were trailblazers, innovators, and guardians of knowledge, proving that even in distant worlds, fear could be overcome through intellect, collaboration, and courage. The colony thrived, humans led by example, and the legacy of the trials became a symbol of humanity's unique ability to rise above fear and misunderstanding.